Shalom, my name is Andrew Teplinsky, and today we want to study biblical feasts of Israel. The book of Leviticus, chapter 23, introduces us to the 7 annual feasts of the Lord that Israel celebrated. God called them my feasts because they were times that were sanctified to Him. God appointed times, fixed periods, or moadim in Hebrew. These times serves as a reminder. Let's have a look at the verses. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, The feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my feasts. These are the feasts of the Lord, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at their appointed times. The 3 first feasts occur in March and April. They include Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the Feast of the First Fruit. The 4th, Pentecost, or Shavuot, occurs in late May or early June, and it marks the summer harvest. The last 3 feasts are in September and October. They are the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Each feast reminds us of God's act in history of Israel and present God's plan of redemption. They shape the Jewish calendar. Yeshua and the Apostle follow it. But while the New Testament clarifies that Gentile believers are not obligated to celebrate this feast, studying the biblical feast is a good way to return to the Jewish roots of the Christian faith. Let's start with the spring feasts. The first is Passover. Passover is the first biblical feast of Israel, and it starts the biblical calendar. On the 14th day of the first month, at twilight, is the Lord Passover. Passover commemorates God's deliverance of Israel from slavery in Egypt. It's a feast of salvation and freedom. In traditional Jewish life, every Passover, families met together for a special meal called a seder in Hebrew. It includes drinking 4 cups of wine, eating unleavened bread, and partaking of symbolic food and reclining at the table in celebration of freedom. However, Passover itself is a prophetic feast that points to the great deliverance from the slavery of sin. This feast corresponds to Yeshua's death for us as the Passover lamb. Passover foreshadows the redemption of the whole world. But look what the New Testament says about Yeshua. The next day, John saw Jesus coming towards him and said, Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Paul said in 1 Corinthians, For indeed Christ, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. The next feast is Feast of Unleavened Bread. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do not customary work on it, but you shall offer an offering made by the fire to the Lord for 7 days. The 7th day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do not customary work on it. The Feast of Unleavened Bread begins on the day after Passover. Because the Israelites left Egypt in such haste, the bread had no time to rise. Interestingly, leaven in the Bible usually symbolizes sin. Unleavened bread eaten over the period of time reminds us to have a holy walk with the Lord. Paul encourages us as believers. Therefore, purge out the old leaven that you may be a new lump, since you truly are unleavened. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with the old leaven, not with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Next feast is the feast of first fruits. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When you come into the land which I give to you, and reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. He shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted on your behalf. On the day after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it. And you shall offer on the day when you wave the sheaf a male lamb of the first year, without blemish, as the burnt offering to the Lord. This wonderful feast acknowledges the fertility of the land and invokes God's future provision. It served to stir up Israeli faith in God's promises. The Jews were to bring the early crops of the spring planted and wave the sheaf before the Lord. It's a picture of faith and promise, because people couldn't celebrate this feast until they came into the promised land. In the New Testament, the Feast of First Fruits corresponds to Yeshua's resurrection. Let's have a look. Paul said, But now Christ is risen from the dead, and he has become the first fruit of those who have fallen asleep. And he is the head of a body, the church, who is the beginning, the first from the dead, that in all things he may have the preeminence. The next feast is the Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot in Hebrew. Let's look at these verses. And you shall count for yourself for the day after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the way offering, 7 Shabbats shall be completed. Count 50 days to the day after the 7th Shabbat, then you shall offer a new grain offering to the Lord. During this feast of Shavuot, the people were to bring 2 loaves of bread made from the first reaping of the wheat harvest, bake it with yeast to the priest to wave before the Lord. This wave offering was not the unleavened bread eaten at Passover. This one, fully risen bread made by Israelis from the first harvest, can be understood as a sign that God's promises are truthful. The land is fruitful and good. In the New Testament, this feast corresponds to when the disciples receive the Holy Spirit in the book of Acts, chapter 2. When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all in one accord in one place. And then suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them dividing tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now, let's look at the fall feast, the Feast of Trumpets. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a Shabbat rest, a memorial of blowing of trumpet, a holy convocation. You shall do not customary work on it, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. Now, the Feast of Trumpets is celebrated on the first day of the 7th month. The Israelis blew trumpets on the first day of every month, but in this month, the trumpet also signaled the Feast of Trumpet. The sound of the trumpet stir up the hearts of the Jewish people and help them turn afresh to God, to begin to prepare themselves for the next two feasts to come. After the time of captivity in Babylon, the Jewish calendar was changed. The start of the year was switched to begin on the day of the Feast of Trumpets. All thought it is the 7 months. Jewish until today call this Rosh Hashanah, or head of the year in Hebrew. The Feast of Trumpets corresponds to Lord's return with the sound of the trumpet. Let's look at these verses. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with a power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. And they will gather together his elect from the fourth wind, from one end of heaven to another. Also Paul said in 1 Thessalonians, "For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of archangel, and with the trumpet of God. In a moment, in a twinkle of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, the dead will rise incorruptible, and we shall be changed," Paul said in 1 Corinthians. And then in the book of Revelation, "Then the 7 angels sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." The next feast, it's a day of atonement. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Also the 10th day of the 7th month shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by the fire to the Lord. And you shall do not do work on that day, for it's a day of atonement, to make atonement for you before the Lord your God." Now, the Day of Atonement is the holiest day of the Jewish year. The period of 10 days, starting from the Feast of Trumpet to the Day of Atonement, became known in Jewish life as the 10 days of awe. This day was a fast day rather than the feast day. Now, God used this day to teach that the removal of sin is an entirely work of God. In order to find a spiritual renewal, the Israelis were commanded to afflict their souls, cease their ordinary work, and draw near to God. Now, Leviticus 23 describes the Day of Atonement. On the Day of Atonement, in addition to the regular daily offerings, the high priest was to bring a bull and 2 goats as a special offering. The bull would be offered as a sin offering for the priest himself and for his household. He was to sprinkle the blood of the bull inside the veil of the Holy of Holies upon the kaporet, or mercy seat. Then he will draw lots and select one of the 2 goats to be a sin offering on behalf of the people. This goat was designated by the Lord. He would then enter the Holy of Holies and sprinkle the blood of the goat upon the kaporet. Finally, the high priest will lay both hands on the head of the 2nd goat and send it into the wilderness, while confessing all of the transgression of the people. This goat was driven away into the wilderness, symbolically carrying upon it the people's iniquities. Now, while the high priest performed these functions, the people were eagerly anticipating the outcome of the ritual. When the high priest emerged from the holy place, the people would know the Lord had forgiven the nation. Now, understanding the Day of Atonement provides the background of the work of Yeshua as expressed in the book of Hebrews. Let's look at the text. For Christ has not entered the holy places made with hands, which are copies of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Not he should offer himself often, as a high priest entered the most holy place every year with the blood of another, he then would have had to suffer often since the foundation of the world. But now, once at the end of ages, he has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And it is then appointed for men to die once, but after the judgment, so Christ was offered once to bear the sins of many. To those who eagerly wait for him, he will appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. Now, the ultimate fulfillment of a Day of Atonement will be the second coming of Yeshua the Messiah, when God purifies his people who have returned to him in repentance. The Lord will also cleanse the land of Israel from idols, false prophets, unclean spirit. Let's look at the verses in the book of Zechariah. In that day, a fountain shall be opened up for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for sin and for uncleanness. It shall be in that day, said the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols from the land, and they shall no longer be remembered. I will also cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to depart from the land. And the last feast is the Feast of Tabernacles. Let's look at the text. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, This 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles, for the 7 days to the Lord. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do not customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by the fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It's a sacred assembly, and you shall do not customary work on it. Now the Feast of Tabernacles begins and ends in rest, and it's all about celebration and refreshment. God commanded the celebration of this feast on the 15 days of the 7th month. The Jews were to have a Shabbat rest, means no work, on the first or on the 8th day of this feast. In between, the Israelis were commanded to gather its fruit from the land. Offerings were to be made on the altar for 8 days of the feast. Let's look at the verse. Also, on the 15 days of the 7th month, when you have gathered fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of the Lord for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a Shabbat rest, and on the 8th day the Shabbat rest. Only on this feast did God command the Israelis to rejoice. The rejoicing revolved around the ingathering of the harvest, which includes grapes and other fall produce. He said, And you shall take for yourself on the first day the fruit of the beautiful trees, branches of the palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. During the 7 days of the feast, the Jews needed to live in booths to commemorate their 40 years of sojourning and dwelling in tents in the wilderness. Through the observance of the holiday, God wanted to remind the Jews that He delivered them from Egypt. The people needed to remember that the Lord was their God, and He had led them out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage, to the promised land. However, the Feast of Tabernacles points to the future ingathering of nations. In the future, nations will be expected to make annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem to worship the only King and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Look at these verses. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of theirs do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and entering, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague which the Lord strike the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be a punishment of Egypt and punishment of the nations that do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. As punishment for not making the pilgrimage to attend this feast, the Lord threatened to withhold the rain. For example, as we read, if the people of Egypt refuses to go up to Jerusalem, the Lord would withhold the rain from their country. This will be a punishment on any nation that does not participate in the Feast of Tabernacle in the future. Now, this Feast of Israel have historical significance as a part of the history of the nation of Israel. However, they point to God's plan of redemption. The Lord Yeshua was crucified on the Passover. His sinless body was buried on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He was raised by the Father as a first fruit. And God sent the Holy Spirit on the Feast of Pentecost. The Feast of Trumpets points to the return of our Lord Yeshua. The Day of Atonement points to the future coming of our High Priest Yeshua, who will purify Israel. And the Feast of Tabernacles points to final ingathering of the nations. In the millennium, nations will make the annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem to worship only King Yeshua and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. After this brief overview of the 7 feasts of Israel, we can agree that the Jewish roots of our Christian faith offer us and you a better look at the past as well as the future. Thank you so much for watching this. Blessings.